Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about the Evergreen Life DNA test. My name is Pollyanna Hale and I'm a personal trainer, nutritionist and weight loss coach with thefitmumformula.com, and DNA absolutely fascinates me because of course it's the one thing that we can't change. So much of our health and our fitness and our well-being is in our control, but our DNA we really can't change, which makes it really interesting. And what your DNA means is that there are going to be certain decisions in your life that you can make based on your DNA that are individual to each person, such as whether you're more likely to get high cholesterol or be deficient in certain nutrients and vitamins. And based on those decisions, you can then decide things like how you're going to eat. And then that way you'll have better overall health because you're tailoring the way you live your life and the way you eat and live to your DNA. The test contains everything you need, including full instructions. You just take the swab out, swirl it around on your cheeks for a few seconds to get some cheek cells, and then pop it back into the tube provided and secure it safely. Put it back in the box, into the envelope provided, and stick it in the post. So once you've sent off your test, they'll be analysed by a lab, and you'll get your results sent through the app that you can download onto your phone, and it's available for both iOS and Android. The app's really easy to use. You click into it and then you click on your DNA and you can go through the various categories of diet, fitness, metabolism and skincare. And inside it'll tell you a little bit, an overview of each of your DNA results, and you can click on each one to get a more in-depth review. You can also log various other health factors such as any medications you're on, any conditions you have. You can share all of this with your GP, and it means you don't have to carry paperwork around or try and remember long names. The Evergreen DNA test covers 4 different categories. So it covers your diet, so things that you eat and drink, and also things like caffeine and alcohol. Your metabolism, so that's how fast your metabolism is, how quickly you burn calories, how well you burn fats, and also things like how fast you metabolize different types of fats, like saturated or unsaturated. And so all of those things will affect how you personally should be eating. You know, maybe you should have a lower saturated fat diet where somebody else could afford to have a slightly higher one, that sort of thing. It covers fitness, so whether you respond better to strength training or cardio. Obviously a bit of both is good for everyone, but sometimes people might do better for their health and reaching their health goals by doing more of one than the other. Or if you wanted to compete and go down like the competitive route, then you might actually find genetically that you're actually drawn towards, say, strength training or power training, as opposed to, say, running a marathon, a very long distance endurance type exercise. So that's something that your DNA will dictate as well. And then finally it covers skincare. Now this is to do with things like UV light and how easily you burn in the sun, and also how quickly you age and how much your collagen and natural elastin degrade as you get older. That's going to be, lifestyle plays a part in that, but also your genes will determine how quickly you age as well. So the test will tell you that. My results were absolutely fascinating to me. There are a few things that came up kind of average, normal, kind of run-of-the-mill, nothing too extreme either end, and nothing that I would particularly worry about. For example, I'm about average when it comes to strength training and endurance, which is absolutely fine because I'm not looking to get a personal best in a marathon. I'm not looking to compete in a power meeting lift and, you know, lift ridiculous amounts of weight. I just want to stay generally fit and healthy and strong. So being in the middle is absolutely fine for me. Having said that, for a fat loss goal, my genes do tell me that I burn more fat doing strength training than doing cardio. So if my goal was to burn fat, I'd be better off hitting the weights than I would be going out for a run. That might be different for someone else, but I know that, so I know that if that's my goal and if I wanted to get a little bit more shredded for summer or whatever else, then I'm better off hitting the weights than I am going out for a run, personally. But the really interesting things that came were, well, one of them was that I have an increased craving for salt. Now, I know this because I like salt, but I always put it down to the fact that I have low blood pressure. And one thing salt does is it can raise your blood pressure because it absorbs liquid and so it increases the volume of blood that you have. And that is true, but what this tells me is that actually some of those salt cravings could be down to genetics, and therefore even though I'm craving salt and I'm thinking, oh, well, I must be needing it because I must be needing it to increase my blood pressure, maybe I don't need quite as much as I thought, and it is just a craving for taste. So that's something I need to watch. The other thing that was really interesting for me was my increased need for vitamin B12. Now, B12 is something it's found only in animal products. So for that reason, a vegan diet, which has no animal products, probably wouldn't be right for me unless I was to really supplement for B12. But the other thing that's interesting is since after I stopped breastfeeding after my second child, when my periods came back, I was very, very tired throughout those few days of the month, and it was most commonly it's down to low iron levels. So I started taking iron, and that's really, really helped. I no longer get that lethargy I was getting because my iron stores are being topped up. But B12 helps absorption for iron. So this means that because I'm prone to have an increased need for B12 because I don't absorb it as well, maybe if I was to take B12 as well, or sort of an iron B12 combination, I might really feel a lot better. So actually that's something I'm going to go and try. I'm going to go and see if I can find like a B12 and iron combination supplement that I can take instead of just iron. Another one that came up was lactose intolerance. Now, I'll be honest, I've been a little bit suspicious for this for a while. It's got worse over the years. I have been in denial because I really love my Greek yogurt, but Greek yogurt doesn't seem to love me. The symptoms have been getting worse and worse gradually. And I always thought it was something that it was just temporary, and sometimes gut problems can be temporary. Food intolerances can be temporary, and they're because you're under stress. It could be hormonal. There's all sorts of reasons, like gut bacteria problems, all sorts. And I thought that it would just be something I get over, and if I just had a little bit of dairy now and then, it would be fine, and eventually I would be able to just have it, like I did as a child, absolutely fine as a young child. I don't recall having any problems, or at least any symptoms I did have were never put back to dairy for tummy bugs or, tiredness or anything like that. I would never relate it back to my dairy intake, and neither my parents. But sometimes it could be something you grow into, because as a child we are supposed to have dairy so that we can have breast milk, and so we have a tolerance for it. And it's only once we get a lot older, and sometimes it's way past childhood, that these genes that say, no, actually you're too old for dairy now, kick in. Not the same for everybody. The majority of the people in the Western world who have a Western heritage like I do, Caucasian people can digest dairy and have no problem digesting lactose, which is the sugar in dairy. The majority of the people with Oriental heritage and in the East, in the Far East, can't. But obviously that's not me. But my genetics have come back saying that I am lactose intolerant. Well, that explains a few things, right? I have until now been fighting it, going, I will get over this, it will be fine, it's just a temporary thing. Your genes are not temporary, and this is pretty conclusive. It's saying, I have a gene variation that means actually I'm going to have problems digesting lactose, and that's going to be a lifelong thing. So I now have to make a decision to go completely dairy-free, or if I choose to have some, face the consequences. At least now I know, and I can make that educated decision. And then as for skincare, well, no surprise it came up saying that I was quite susceptible to sun damage. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's related to the fact that it's the same genes that says I am white-skinned, I'm fair-skinned, and therefore I am much more likely to burn than somebody with darker skin. That's pretty common sense, but it is in the genes as well, obviously. It's saying that I am going to burn easily, and of course I do. I'm fair-skinned, so I do burn easily if I don't protect my skin from the sun. But also I will age faster as well. It's not this UVB rays, it's the UVA rays that I need to be aware of, and I'm pretty good with my skincare. I used to be a health and beauty therapist years ago, so I'm really good with wearing sun cream. I am more likely to have poor elasticity in my skin, so it's more likely to sag as I get older. One thing I can do to help that is put things like oils on my skin, especially ones containing vitamin E, and to eat lots of foods that contain vitamin E and good fats. Things like avocados and olives are good for that. So they're just a few things that I've picked up personally from my test. And yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, just to summarize, the things that I now can go and do to improve my health and improve my life are, I can take extra vitamin B12 or a vitamin B12 iron combination, especially around my period, so that I don't get tired. I can avoid milk and dairy products completely. I can eat more foods that are rich in omega-3 oils and vitamin E, and I can put oils on my skin and ones that are enriched with vitamin E as well. And I can focus on strength training, knowing that that is something that will benefit me when it comes to at least looking toned and burning fat. I don't want to be an athlete, but you know, everyone wants to look good, so that's something that will benefit me over, say, cardio training. And these are all things that are very individual to me. I could not have guessed them, and somebody else might have completely the opposite results. And okay, trial and error helps, and that's how most people do it over time. But to be honest, these things I would have never have known had I not taken a DNA test. So it's just absolutely fascinating, actually. I've had DNA tests before, but none of them were this comprehensive, and there was so much information that it was really interesting, much more interesting than I'd anticipated, actually, these things that's flagged up. If you want to give it a go as well, go to evergreen-life.co.uk. That's evergreen-life.co.uk. I'll put the links up in the notes there with this video. And yeah, it's really fascinating these days. DNA tests are so affordable, and it's really interesting. So if you if you don't want to get it just for yourself, get it for somebody else, just as it's really interesting whether you've got health problems or not, just to know how you can, the little things that you can do, they're actually quite easy, just to make you feel so much better and so much healthier internally, and in turn have more energy to live a good life. I hope you found that interesting. If you've got any questions, then do contact Evergreen Life or myself, Polly at thefitmumformula.com, and I'll point you in the right direction to information or help you out personally if I can.